what's up everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to episode number 186 of the In a Crowded Room podcast, which is the second of two simultaneously released episodes. If you haven't listened to episode number 185, it was just released a few minutes ago, where I share a very important, very personal story about my recovery that I, really wanted to share with you, as I think it has a very strong message to it that I hope you guys get something out of. I hope. That's a big reason why I created this podcast, was to share stories that matter to me. And this one's pretty damn important. So if you haven't checked that out yet, next, please do. This episode is actually going to get us caught up on everything that has happened over the last month. Also, I explain in detail where I went for the last month and what happened. All good things, nothing bad at all, but it was health related. And I share all those details once again in episode number 185, so I'm not going to re-go over it again today. We're just going to jump right into answering your questions and discussing some things that have gone down that are pretty shocking over the last month. And again, you have a few other questions that are not necessarily related to paranormal events, but just questions in general that you have for me that I'm going to answer here. But the first one that many of you have asked me about, in fact, I was impressed by how many of you remembered this. But yes, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because the footage is, oh God, disturbing. But unfortunately, Skyfall's prediction that there will be a Middle Eastern war that just erupts has come true. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the footage that I've seen, and especially of the 3,000 person rave that was going on, where people were just massacred. Really disheartening stuff. Now, when it comes down to the politics of all of this stuff, listen, when I started this podcast, there was an active commitment that I made that I did not want to really get into either religion or politics and share my views on either, just because I don't think that's what you come here for. And, I don't want to go to somebody else's podcast about, like I'm into professional boxing, right? If I go to Mike Tyson's podcast, I don't really want to hear Tyson go on and on about his political beliefs. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a place for that. Not that I don't appreciate the fact that, he's a person and has the right to share those. It's just not why I'm coming there. And I don't think many people are coming here to listen to my political beliefs or my political thoughts or my religious thoughts. Although, of course, those things are going to come out from time to time just by the nature of I'm human. So some of my feelings may bleed through. But when it comes to this situation in the Middle East, I'm going to do something right now that most people are too afraid to do that have podcasts or people that have a voice in the public sector, which is to say, guys, I'm just not that, educated on the issues and the nuances of the issues of the Middle East, specifically between Israel and Palestine, Hamas. I know basic things, but again, you don't get to the point that you're having war without there being many levels of the story and many levels of information that have to be consumed. The nuances of war and the nuances of conflict. I'm not well versed in what is going on over there. Thankfully, I have a really intelligent partner that I absolutely freaking love Thomas. And he has been there. One of the few people I know that have actually been to, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank and all that stuff. And I started speaking with him last night on all of the, like I said, the nuances of this conflict, and to try to educate myself. And thank you, Thomas, for taking the time, for really sharing with me your thoughts, and which I'm still, studying that as well. So I don't want to, make this a political speech. So I'm just not going to. I'm going to let you guys know that I don't know enough. I don't know enough to have a credible opinion about who's wrong or right. But I do agree with something Thomas said. That made all the sense in the world, of course, which is, I don't agree with anything that causes innocent people to suffer, and or be slaughtered or raped or pillaged, or and I'm just disheartened by the fact that this war exists, period, regardless of who you think is right or wrong. It just sucks, man. It sucks that we live in a time period where this is still possible. We just got out of this war in Afghanistan that cost so many lives, man. So many lives, so much money that, I look at it, not even so much of an us versus Taliban. I look at it like, what did that cost the American public? The trillions of dollars that was spent on, the Afghan war. How could that have been put to use in America for, rehab facilities, education, housing, food, infrastructure, all that stuff? That's how I see it. And just in general, I hate violence. I've said this many times. I've talked to you guys about my issues with violence and fighting. And, when I was younger, and I did get in fist fights all the time, what used to drive me nuts about it the most is that that fight, if it came down to that, that means that intelligence has failed, that communication has failed, and the most uneducated path has somehow taken its course, and that's what's going on. I just think there should always be a way to work things out through communication, and when that doesn't happen, it's disheartening. And when it doesn't happen on a scale that is causing thousands of innocent people to just be butchered. I mean, butchered. It's just crazy. I saw some footage. Well, I didn't want to talk about it. It's so disturbing. So yeah, I don't have wrong or right thoughts. In general, my thought is just that I wish it wasn't happening. As far as Skyfall's prediction, look, he said there will be a Middle Eastern war that will erupt and that America will be drawn into it. And he claimed that there will be someone that comes forward to basically offer a peaceful solution. And at that point, that is when the announcement that, essentially they're here, that, aliens, the fake alien invasion will come shortly after. So we're working our way up to that. 2 months ago, which is the last update I had, I told you guys that Skyfall said in the next 2 months, some major stuff's going to be going down. And that's not the only thing that's happened. There's been a lot of other things that have happened in the world of ufology. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but the Border Control released a bunch of videos that they claimed were UFO and UAP videos. And once again, there's only like 2 of them out of 10 that I thought couldn't be identified. One of them was just, I don't know why they were calling it a UFO. It was a clear, basically the hang gliders that have the seat, like the paraglide hang gliders One of them is just that. It's a dude. I don't understand. Yeah, it's just a dude flying around a paraglider. I don't know why they said that was a UAP, but they released 10 different videos. There's just been a lot of reports that have been coming out. There have been some incredible footage, civilian footage that I've recently seen. And I do believe that sometime very soon, the whole, we are not alone, statement's going to be coming from Biden. And, which until we get there and until somebody actually delivers a body, that can be verified and, or shows us a ship for real that can be verified, then my stance remains the same. I believe, in the sense that I believe that there is intelligent life out there. I believe that we have been visited. Like I've told you guys before, I have a pretty strong belief. I'm not, certain, but I have a tendency to believe that we, human beings, that we are a created race. I personally, and this is just not anything I've seen, I do have a belief that the answers probably exist in our oceans. That makes a lot of sense to me. And we can get into all of this, much in much more detail in another episode. Those are big topics to handle, I understand, but or big topics to discuss. But I do see everything ramping up, and now it's got to the point where I said this last time when David Grush came out. It's like at this point, what else is there? I mean, clearly there's a game in play, and the government has this game they're playing, and there's a pacing of information, and it's so obvious it's ridiculous. And they've got to the point now where it's gonna have to be, put up or shut up. I mean, it's all the same guys. All these dudes that, put out that ridiculous book on the Skinwalker Ranch. The whole crew, Hal Puthoff, Chris Mellon, George Knapp, Lou Alzondo, all of these guys. It's all the same crew. David Grush knew all of them, wrapped into the same thing. And now this Lukatsky guy, which is, again, the same crew, the same group of people that, were part of this OSAP and spent $22 million that, Harry Reid pretty much, technically it wasn't illegal, but he basically only allowed Bob Bigelow to bid on this project. The Skinwalker Ranch project. That's how they got the $22 million, which we'll talk about that more in a second when I get to the next question. But, basically, those guys are out of ammunition, They released their footage. They've, got their congressional hearing. They set up, Grush to speak the same thing that, he said in Newsmax or News Nation. He said at Congress. All of these guys have already been on Rogan, and not, Grush, but like everybody else has pretty much been on Rogan one, if not multiple times, speaking for hours about all this stuff. The footage they released is out there. There's not really much left to do, besides time to show the ship, or show the bodies, or, there's just nothing left, right? Because it's just a bunch of talk. And that's why I said before, they're either going to look like heroes and like they ushered it out, or they're going to have, mud on their face and they're going to look ridiculous. And I think that's kind of where Skyfall lines up, where he gave his timeline and said, some big stuff's going to be going down. And yeah, the whole time, the key indicator in his predictions, as many of you caught, and I was like, hell yeah, man, you guys are on it, is this Middle Eastern conflict. That was the key thing that was supposed to happen before this fake alien invasion was going to be ushered in. So I have not heard back from Skyfall in some time. A couple months ago, I messaged him about everything that I had gone through, kind of a short paragraph or two summing it up, and I haven't heard back yet. That's not unnormal. Sometimes, he'll go 3 months without messaging me. There wasn't anything that I asked him that was pertinent that he needed to respond to right away. So I'm just waiting to see what he has to say. Beyond that, like I said, the only other additional recent response is when, like I said, he said that big things are coming up in the next couple months, which they certainly have. So, yeah, that's what's going on now. When I hear back from Skyfall, and I'm sure I will, my next question is going to be, when does he think time frame wise that the government will actually try to, demonstrate that there's an invasion happening? Is that something that he knows enough to predict? Or is it just in this time frame type of thing? Or does he have no idea? I'm really interested to know what he says about that. If there's something specific we can look towards and, further test out his knowledge, but also at the same time just have something that we can look out for to see when this is supposed to happen. Because the more and more he can put things out there in advance and then have them confirmed, the more and more that actually helps the situation, because we, all of us listening to this now as well, can say, hey, there's been a guy that, got a hold of Calek how many years ago that has laid all this out and has been predicting this well in advance. So don't believe the hype. This is not some, terrible invasion coming. That's not what's going on. So I hope, that he does get back to me with more predictions. So this next question actually is kind of about everything I just mentioned. And I'm glad you asked me this. A lot of people have been asking me this. This John Dawson from Illinois says, Chad, I've noticed what seems to be a growing skepticism in you towards the UFO situation. What specifically has caused this? Well, John, that is a great question, and thank you for asking about it. There are some specific things that have really made me skeptical about anything that comes from the government, obviously, which I've always been skeptical of. But when I say the government, I'm including like Corbell and Knapp and those guys all in this, because as I mentioned earlier, it's all the same team of people, right? It's all the people that Harry Reid gave $22 million to run this OSAP program. And once the government said, okay, once they found out this was going on a year after the money was dispersed, and they said, nothing here is, worthy of investigation. This money's just being blown. And they shut that program down. All these guys kept moving forward and kept trying to make all of this stuff a big deal. And they're all screaming, this needs more research. This needs more research. That's money, right? They need more money. But it's the same group of people. All the Skinwalker clan. And right down to what happened last week, which is totally ridiculous. Now remember, every time these new personalities come out, Corbell and Knapp are always there, right behind him, literally sitting right behind Grush in Congress, and they act as though these are like recent events, that these guys just came out and they just discovered stuff. And it's all been lined up, and it's all been being released, in a pattern. Here's another recent example. This guy that just came forward, Corbell has his podcast with George Knapp. And they just had this guy, James Lakatsky. His name is James Lakatsky. And he introduces Lakatsky as, the former head of our government's UAP program. And it's crazy. On my podcast, he just says it. He comes right out and says it, that we have a UFO and we breached a hole. And he cleared this information to the government. They said, yes, you can talk about it. And it's just like, first off, Lakatsky. This isn't anything new. You knew this was going to happen because Lakatsky ran OSAP. that was the company that got the $22 million. Once the money got pulled, Lukatsky shut OSAP down and pretty much handed it to Lou Elizondo. And he decided, well, rather than say I'm running this now defunct company that has no money, I'm going to just create a new name, ATIP. Now, what's hilarious about ATIP, guys, there's no people. It's not an organization. It was not funded. There's no staff. ATIP was Lou. And he says he retired because he just couldn't get the information through to our, our highest generals, our, 4-star generals. Well, duh, of course you can't. You're one guy saying that you're an entity, that you're a branch, that you're an investigative group when you're a dude, and ATIP only exists on paper, and you're screaming UFO stuff. And you wonder why you can't get information to 4-star generals? I mean, it's just ridiculous. But again, with this new, quote, atom bomb of information, you have Corbell out there, saying, this guy's now come forward. And, he knew it was going to happen all the time. He's known the guy forever. He knew what he was going to say. It's just all being staged. And poorly, very poorly staged. And, they're just bad actors. And when I see that, it's disheartening. Another thing that is really disheartening to me is there is one piece of footage that's incredible. And maybe you guys are going to explain this to me. But nobody talks about it, this piece of footage. But yet everybody talks about those 3 pieces of footage that they released in the beginning, the Go Fast, the Gimbal, the Tic Tac. Those are all horrible. Those are some of the worst UFO videos, quote, UAP videos, whatever, that I've ever seen. They all love to say, they're doing things that defy physics. Not on video, they're not. I'm sorry, not on video, they're not. We don't see anything that is incredibly fast. Nothing is making some, 90 degree turn, 180 degree maneuver. Like nothing's doing any of that whatsoever. We see some blobs floating around. That's it. But yet everybody talks about how that stuff is so impressive, and it's not. And they go, well, the government put their stamp on it. Yes, the government lies their ass off, and we all know that. So why is that impressive? That doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And yeah, I do lend more credibility to like pilots and things like that. But I even have questions when Fravor comes out and says he had this crazy experience, and I believe him. I believe that he did. But I also think there's a lot of embellishment going on there, if not flat out lying, because on record, Fravor says the Tic Tac event took 5 minutes. Dietrich, who was flying the other plane, says it took 5 seconds. Said they had a visual on it for 5 seconds. And Fravor says 5 minutes. There's a dramatic difference between the two. But no one's questioning him about that. Why? Well, it's because they're being, basically shielded by Corbell and by Knapp. And whenever they set up these interviews and stuff, they just don't have them respond to that. And they calculate where they're going to be and what he's going to say, and they make sure that all these interviews are with friendlies. Just like the News Nation thing with David Grush. I mean, that was, a softball interview from hell. The guy doing the interview with News Nation is a huge UFO buff. And he wasn't trying to push back on Grush to really find out hard truths at all. That stuff really frustrates me, But it's not like, to be clear, it's not like I have a disbelief in any of this stuff. I agree with Lex Friedman, who says, mathematically, it's not only possible that even within our own galaxy, that there would be thousands of intelligent, species, intelligent races, but throughout the universe, there would be billions, if not trillions. I mean, infinity is that's a long time. It's big, infinity is big. So, if you look up in the night sky, literally, like I said, we're talking about probably billions of intelligent civilizations. But then we come back to the Fermi paradox, which is, if that's the case, and mathematically it appears to be the case, then where are the aliens? Well, I think that, one, I do have a tendency to believe that they are among us already, and we either can't identify, well, my actual belief, yes, my personal opinion is, I think that human beings are a created race. It doesn't make sense to me that we are native to this planet for a lot of different reasons that, again, we will do another podcast on. There's 7 specific reasons that don't make any sense in regard to us and the planet, including our circadian rhythm being completely off with the planet. But if we were created by a race that wasn't us, we may look so much like them that we can't even recognize them if they're here because we are them. So we can't recognize them. It could be that, and I believe there's a lot of research to back up that the answer is probably, rely on our oceans. And this takes me back to the piece of footage that I was talking about earlier. And this really frustrates me. We have those 3 pieces of footage that are terrible, right? But then we have what is a truly fascinating piece of footage, the Agua Dia footage. That's the footage in Puerto Rico where it is a clear, picture-perfect, clear shot of whatever this thing is flying, this round thing, almost looks like a ball with a headset on it. And it's being filmed from what I believe is a helicopter. And it's flying out over a runway, and it goes off the runway into the ocean. You could see it go into the water, come out of the water, and it like splits in 2, and now becomes 2 identical ships. Now, when it hits the water, it actually does show that transmedium ability. And the water doesn't stop it at all. It's like the water is air to it. Now, this is a video that was recorded and released by, Homeland Security. So it has that government stamp of approval. It truly shows something incredible. It's crystal clear. It's mind-blowing, but yet nobody's talking about it. Like, literally, no one talks about it. They just talk about the Tic Tac, which is, again, nothing more than a story because the footage shows us nothing. So why isn't anybody talking about the Agua Dia footage? There's a reason. Maybe it's just because Corbell can't slap, his Instagram all over it, which he puts on all the other pieces of footage, which are interesting because Tom DeLonge's group is actually the group that initially, took the steps to release that footage. And Corbell calls it his, which, whatever, that's fine. But maybe he's not talking about Agua Dia because it's not his footage. I don't know, but that's the most impressive piece of footage, and nobody talks about it. At the same time, the waters off the coast of Puerto Rico, there's been crazy footage filmed recently of incredible lights that are appearing in the water. They don't know where they're from. In one of the sequences, there's actually appears to be like a body that's swimming around in this water. Now, I don't know if they're real or not, but I know that no one's really digging into it. I know the Agua Dia footage is real of this thing flying and going into the water and splitting in 2, but yet no one's talking about it. Why is that? There's a reason. All these things together just give me nothing but skepticism towards anything that I hear from Corbell and his group. So, while your question, you identify something that's true, as I have become very skeptical of those guys, I don't want that to be mistaken for I'm skeptical that there is, in fact, some kind of, contact coming in a public setting or a public way. Because I do believe they're probably already here. And yeah, like I said, either we are them and they're amongst us, or I think the answer could lie in the ocean, or I think they've been watching, and a lot of the things that people are seeing are monitoring devices, and contact is coming. That could be a situation. So Anyways, but I appreciate the question. Thank you so much. Also, one last thing about that, too. What also bothers me is the making of news where there is none. David Grush comes forward and says all these crazy things, and then, I shouldn't say crazy, that's the wrong word, and I apologize to Mr. Grush for saying that. Says all these things that are difficult to prove. But then what's made out of it is, this is so historic. No one with any kind of serious clearance has ever come forward like this. That's not true. This has been happening forever. One example I can give you is Robert Salas. He was the weapons controller for the Minutemen nukes that we have at Malmstrom Air Force Base. This guy watched a UFO appear above them. He brought his the entire staff from outside into the inside structure to get him away from this thing because he was freaked out. And he watched them, go one by one and shut each nuke down, completely disable it. And then it brought him back online. So, what's that? This guy has come forward years ago to say, no, this was not anything in any foreign country's arsenal. This was, a genuine UFO that had the ability to take all of our nukes offline, and it demonstrated it. This is a very well-respected, high-ranking weapons controller. How respected? If we launch a nuclear war, this is the guy that pushes the button. Okay? That's how much he's trusted. He came forward years ago. So, the stuff that's going on right now, it's not anything new. And nothing will be new until we see a spaceship or we see for sure confirmed bodies. So, with that being said, next question, Chad, what do you think of the Mexican bodies? Did you hear about the results of the Mexican naval doctor? Yeah, I did. I say send them up here to America. Send them up here. Give us what we need to basically look into it. They look goofy to me, but, I don't know what mummified aliens look like. If they can prove for a fact that they're not human and they're all of one skeleton, then yeah, let's do it. Like, get them up there. And again, I don't understand why our scientists aren't clamoring for that stuff. Like, they're saying it's there. Go get it. Let's see. I'm not going to shoot it down and for sure until I know. I would love to find out, Hopefully they do that soon. Okay, here, next question. Actually, quite a few people asked me this question, which is, did I see the new Bigfoot footage? And what do I think of it? Every time there's a new Bigfoot sighting or new Bigfoot footage, I get a ton of questions about it because I'm on the record as not being a believer in Bigfoot. But I always remind people, I'm a believer of the concept of Bigfoot. I just haven't seen any proof, and I require proof. This footage of Bigfoot walking around on the side of this hill in Colorado looks like a guy wearing a Chewbacca outfit. I mean, there's no way to say that is Bigfoot or not. And he walks like a man. He looks like a guy walking around in a suit. I don't know what to say besides that, I want it to be real. I would love for Bigfoot to be real. The idea that there's a bipedal, massive ape, yeah, it makes total sense. It's possible, but I just don't see anything about this footage that would make me say for sure it's real. And like I said, I need proof, It was like the same thing with Skyfall when Skyfall said who he was. I mean, I said, make these predictions. Prove it to me. Look at his prediction about the Middle East. He made that 3 years ago when there was peace over there. And, look, it's happened. I mean, it's crazy what he's done, but I kind of look at everything like that. I just have to see the proof. And, this footage doesn't prove anything to make me think that Bigfoot is real. And I know everybody loves to say, look at the Patty footage of, Gimlin and Patterson's film. Well, the problem with that is Bob Hieronymus admitted that he did it, said he was paid $1,000 to do it, and Bob Hieronymus walks just like Bigfoot. If you look at the screen right now, this is Bob Hieronymus admitting to it.
According to Bob, Roger Patterson approached him in the fall of 1967 with an offer that was too good to pass up.
He wanted a pretty good-sized guy, somebody that they could trust to wear this Bigfoot suit. They said, we'll pay you $1,000, and it'll only take about 10 minutes. So I was 26 years old at the time. I jumped on it,
And here's his walk. Like I said, I'm open to checking out new footage. I hope he's real. I'm just not a believer yet. Next question. John Deal says... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Leanne Kennedy. I skipped over you. Leanne Kennedy asks, when are you going to start posting reaction videos? You mentioned this a while ago. And how can I send you something to review? Right away, Leanne. I will actually start doing some of them tonight. I love this. I love reaction videos myself. I love watching them. I would love to do them. I'm down to start doing them. Please send me, and this is anybody, you can email me at aghsoldiers@me.com, aghsoldiers@me.com. Send me your footage. Any paranormal footage that you want me to review. Also, I want to do music as well, too. If there's any music you want me to hear that's new. I listen to pretty much everything but country. I even listen to what I call Western music. I love, Johnny Cash, Hank Williams Jr., that kind of stuff. But I'm primarily, into hard rock, metal. I'm a metalhead big time. But I listen to tons of hip hop as well. But regardless, if you think you have something that I haven't heard or seen, and you want my response to it, whether it be paranormal evidence of some kind or music of some kind, send it my way, because I'm going to start doing that very soon. And we'll see if you guys enjoy those. Also, I'm going to do a review pretty soon on this guy I came across that reviewed all of my films. His reviews of my films were actually longer than all of my films. It's insane. This guy reviewed so much stuff. And it's very strange, and I'll go through it with you guys on the episode coming up. Yeah, it's wild. So look out for that. John Deal, spells his name John, you spell your name like a guy named Chad Deal that played football for Iowa from Council Bluffs. If you are related to him or know him, shoot me an email. I haven't seen Chad in a long time, but I know him. Anyways, John Deal says, do you think it's okay to charge clients for home investigations? Or should investigations always be a free service? I've said this a while ago. I've never charged anybody for home investigations, but I never had to. That was never primary a focus of mine. Outside of Index Case, I've probably done 15, 20 home investigations over the years. It just wasn't a focus of mine, but I've done it for friends and family and just in cases that are really intense. And I never had to charge, meaning I was fine as far as making money goes. I had a way to earn a living outside. But if that was my, only thing I was doing, and that was my calling, and if I provided what I believe to be a very professional service, yeah, I don't think it's wrong at all to charge for services. I think what's wrong is this entire keep it real, man, narrative is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. What world do people live in where they think that you could, or you should be expected to work for free to prove you love something or you're serious about it? That's ridiculous. No one would ever tell a doctor, oh, you want to, save people? You want to do surgeries on people? Do it for free, man. Show me you really care. You know, it's like, no, there's a service there. Like, or no one says to actors, you know, you want to be a real actor? If you were really into acting, you'd do it for free. You know, it's like me. Most people, when it comes to things like this, like investigating or acting or making music, you know, in the beginning, you always have to do it for free for years. And that's why you do it, because you're passionate about it. But, you know, look, I would say, you know, Jim, if you can provide a professional service that's fair, and you can work out what is a fair and reasonable price, which is to be determined by the market, which comes down to you and them. If they're willing to pay what they think is a fair price, and you're willing to charge what is a fair price, and you can meet in the middle, there's nothing wrong with that. And as long as you're delivering the service that you promised you would. This is just my opinion. Again, I've never charged anybody to investigate their place, but I see no issue with doing that if the client agrees to it. And if it's something you want to do full time, listen, you know, people got to pay bills, period. It also costs money to investigate. It costs money for equipment. It's like, well, this shit's not going to pay for itself, right? I mean, it's one of my dad's favorite sayings, you know? The shit won't pay for itself. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all, John. Sorry, I think I might have called you Jim. Sorry, John. Jim is the next question. Jim Barton. Hey, Chad. So glad to hear that you're still with us. Thank you, Jim. Me too. When you're ready, I would love to hear what you experienced while you were in critical condition, as 10 days is a long time to stare into the abyss. It is. It was 14 days, but yeah, it was a very long time. Okay. He says, also, I experienced hypoxia once while camping in the Olympics, which was the biggest, strangest experience I've ever had. Which was the biggest, strangest, I get your point. It was the strangest experience I've ever had. Wait a minute, what does camping in the Olympics mean? In the Olympics. Oh, wait a minute. So I think there's mountains called the Olympics, aren't there? Somebody comment to let me know. I think in the upper northwest or southwest. No, it's got to be northwest then, right? Maybe it's in Alaska. I don't know. Somewhere up there northwest, I think there's Olympics mountains. I think you're saying you were camping at altitude, basically. If the Olympics are somewhere in the upper northwest, tell me. If not, tell me what you're talking about here. But you were camping and you had hypoxia, and that was the strangest experience. I would love to know if you have any memories during that time when you had hypoxia. And lastly, this may be a bit of a vague question, but I would love to know what you learned about yourself or your life from this experience. Thanks in advance for taking the time to read this. You're a real one, Chad. Keep healing up, my dude. Well, thank you, Jim Barton, for your kind words. God, it's kind of a long question, but all good questions. Let me go back here. First question. I'm not ready yet to talk about the critical condition stuff. It's just it's some of it's confusing, some of it's really dark. I've just now started to talk with Laura about it. And Laura, unfortunately, has to be my shrink half the time. You know, but I will. I promised I will talk about it. I'm going to talk about it in Harbingers as well, because there's some definite things that were relevant and shocking. In a word, I can just say it was heavy, overwhelming, and it was long. But yeah, as far as hypoxia goes, you know, I have like window flashes. Like Laura mentions that I was calling her by the name of Brandy the whole time before I felt unresponsive. And I don't know why I would do that. Brandy, this Brandy girl had become it's a long story, but why I would be walking around calling her Brandy, I have no idea. But then again, why I would call my dog Story, I would have no idea. I've thought about this many times. Why Brandy? Like, why was I don't know. And then I have a couple memories of, like I said, there was a major surgery that I had that you guys will learn about. I believe I woke up during that surgery, believe it or not. I think I did, because I remember seeing myself. Sounds weird, but and I remember talking about what they were doing. And I also remember the ambulance door opening for some reason. But outside of that, no, man. Hypoxia wasn't a good experience to me. It wasn't strange. It was just a lot of darkness. So having said that, what was the next? Oh, what did I learn about myself? Well, I've learned a lot, but the one thing I've learned, first and foremost, there is just no substitute for having an amazing team. And I mean, loved ones, like my circle, right? Laura has been incredible throughout all this, and my God, did she have a lot to go through. My best friend, business partner, Thomas, I love Thomas to death. He's such a wonderful guy, such an intelligent guy, and so caring and compassionate. I mean, like I had a 3-hour talk with him the other night. That was incredible. Love you, Thomas, man. And just having that support of people around me that just want me to be healthy so I can do what I do, so I can do what I love. I'm so blessed to have the right people in my life, that circle of love and support that you have to have. Nothing is as valuable as that, as having that support system. That is just so incredibly powerful. And it's the reason that I'm healing. It's the reason that I'm still here doing this. And secondly, I learned that I have to accept this. There's a lot of things you can beat in this world. You can beat it with intelligence, physicality, personality, with charm sometimes. One thing you cannot beat in this world, and I've learned this the hard way, is Father Time. That clock is moving, and once you're done with puberty, quite literally, every day of your life, you are dying. That's what happens once you go through your last growth spurt and you're done with puberty. You begin dying. And time gets everybody. I can't do the things I used to be able to do. I can't do some 36-hour edit session, nor has anybody ever insisted that I do. That's been my own drive, and it's ignorant. It's stupid. I mean, I have to put my health first. And I've learned that, and I've learned that you just can't beat time. So, having said that, last question. Kelly from Houston, Texas says, wow, I just listened to Behind Your Eyes and Underwater. I know you made music, but I'm shocked, Chad. Your voice is amazing. That's very kind words, and that means a lot to me. Thank you, Kelly. Do you use auto-tune? And who sings the high harmonies on Underwater? Is that Joey? And lastly, please record an album. I would totally get it. Keep them coming. Kelly, I sing all the vocals. I actually do the high harmonies on Underwater. Joe can do high harmonies. We both are baritones. And it's very odd because we can do baritone harmonies, both of us together. But he has such a unique tone that just carves through that wall of sound, that bottom end, that we can do it and it sounds really cool. When it comes to the high harmonies, I could really belt those high notes out. Joe can do it in this very beautiful, very breathy, kind of wispy way. So I just have a much stronger upper range for notes, and Joe has a much more, I guess. Joe's high end almost sounds like David Gilmour. It's just very breathy, and but for that song Underwater, it just made more sense, especially on the bridge, that I would do the upper harmonies. So I do the high harmonies as well as the low. And yeah, when it comes to auto-tune, I typically never use auto-tune. I don't really have a need for it. I'm only really against auto-tune if you're using it just to sing in tune because you just can't fucking sing. But I don't have any problem with using it what it was intended for. which it's intended where if you have a performance that you like, but you're a little flat or a little sharp. What I mean by a performance that you like, the way you bite off words or phrase words, or the way you attack a verse. Some are just better than the others, and you don't want to lose an attack or a phrasing because you might be a little flat. Then you could run that through an auto-tune and it'll correct it. The only place that we did that on, and it wasn't for anything flat or sharp, it was just because we layered so many of them. On the bridge on Underwater, I had wrote this separate bridge, just kind of the chanty, that big multi-voice, sounds like a big chorus of people. And that's just Joey and I. And we layered so many, baritone harmonies with, tenor and falsetto harmonies. And just because we layered them so many of them, and we had to finish this up quickly, it was easy to just put auto-tune on that section. But none of those parts are too hard to sing. If I can't sing something, I won't write it that way, or I won't even try to record it that way. The way I write, for whatever reason, I write what I know is in my ability. I mean, whatever I hear in my head that I want to do, I can do. If I heard something that I liked and I couldn't sing it, that'd be kind of fucking weird. But I'm sure people do. I don't know. I guess I'm just speaking from my own perspective. But I appreciate your compliments. As you know, music, people that have followed me for a long time, they know my number one passion in the world, is music. In general, it's storytelling, which is why I love making films, but all of this started from my love of music. My manager today, still today, signed me when I was 19 years old for my music. That's Kurt. And the reason I mentioned Kurt is actually, you guys might know him. I mean, if you're familiar with Tears for Fears, which I think is one of the best songwriting bands ever, Kurt is one of the vocalists and songwriters for Tears for Fears. And he thought I was pretty good at music at the age of 19. So there you go. If I could brag about anything, I'd say that was a big accomplishment for me. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to my music, please do. I would love you to check it out. That is where my heart and soul exists when it comes to this business. And it's something that I will do forever. And lastly, I have 3 records out on iTunes and Spotify. There's Road Less Travel, which was made in 2008. 2007 is Can You Feel It? Or 2007 is B-Sides to a Tree, which is just straight live in a room, one overhead mic, acoustic, some B-sides that I put out and some covers. And then Can You Feel This is the first one I ever put out that did pretty well. They're all, really cool lo-fi kind of recordings. And I'm going to be releasing a bunch more music here in the near future as well. But yeah, you can listen to it all on Spotify for free as well too. So thank you. Thank you for the compliments. And to everybody else, thank you all for the love and support. And I'm back, everybody. Let's do this. And I will keep the episodes cranking. I appreciate all your questions. Once again, if you have not clicked the subscribe button, please do. Thank you all. And I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.